I see your Zoanthrope spawn and raise you Spore Mine spawning literally inside me. All right, that's a pretty wild title. So we have seen Spore Mine spawn out of nowhere recently, and I think this one takes the cake. This clip here, I think unanimously just proves that Spore Mine spawns are broken. I don't know how they are broken. I don't know how this is happening. I definitely am starting to see Spore Mines spawn in situations where it's like you look once and you go back and look again. All of a sudden there's a Spore Mine. Yeah, this is a very, very ugly clip. We're going to get to this. I genuinely believe Spore Mine spawns are broken. There could be, now I'm not too sure how often this is happening. I'm not too sure if this is, intended. It's probably not. Maybe the spawn was a special spawn, and I do think the original poster mentioned there was a Biovore around here, which makes this even more puzzling, to be completely honest. This clip is very unfortunate, and I really, really hope honestly, we get so much good stuff in next patch, but it is getting a tad bit annoying coming across some of these bugs that I knew about. Like, as far as Spore Mines spawning a little bit weird, I kind of knew about that. But yesterday we were talking about the Assault class. Yes, it is confirmed that Aftershock is not regenerating your contested health as it's supposed to do. Like, the charge attack for the Thunderhammer is not regenerating your contested health as strong as it should be. That is very frustrating to hear, to be completely honest. Look, I still love the game. I know the devs are doing their best. The devs have been able to deliver some great stuff. But the fact of the matter is, this past month, I have been kind of covering Spore Mine, spawn issues. Certain weapons obviously just aren't, doing what they're supposed to do as far as a Thunderhammer. And ultimately, we have still been discussing, perk reworks and seeing what's going on. But it still just gets very frustrating seeing the amount of issues that Spore Mines seem to cause. And I genuinely think that Spore Mines need a fix. I think their spawns are broken. I really do. All right, so we are clearly on a higher difficulty. We have a bulwark here. I kind of like their style. I definitely like that shoulder. The shoulder pads are a little bit weird, I feel like. Okay, but I think they can grow on me. I think they're fine. Yeah, that's a Spore Mine spawning directly inside that bulwark. That's insane. Now, luckily, they didn't go down to it. Well, now, unfortunately, they're getting bombarded by Spore Mines. Now, the bombardment, I have to admit, I think the original poster mentioned that there was a Biovore spawn that they didn't completely get a sound cue for, or it wasn't told to them that there's a Biovore there, essentially. Yeah, if you don't get a sound cue for Extremists, that's very dangerous. Now, this Spore Mine spawn is not from the Biovore. Even though there's a Biovore in the vicinity, this Spore Mine spawn right there, that is not from the Biovore. That's crazy. I love how the bulwark is looking at it right here, too. This needs to stop. This needs to stop. Like, honestly, the Spore Mines in general can kind of be an issue to deal with, at least, when we saw the bombardment. But what chances does this player have in this sense to avoid this? Because what ends up happening here after this spawn, this actually broken spawn, this is insane. This is insane. Stuff like this seriously needs to be ironed out. And yeah, unfortunately, it's just, there's so much stuff coming down this patch. I really hope the next dev update, the next community dev update, mentions how problematic Spore Mines are right now. Because this clip, I know, okay, don't get me wrong, this is probably rare. This is probably a rare spawn for Spore Mines. However, this player specifically did not deserve to be in this spot. They did not deserve to get absolutely bombarded by Spore Mines after a Spore Mine immediately spawns in their vicinity. Now, you see some Vine Mines over there. I don't see a Biovore or anything. So, yeah, let's continue the clip. I did play it fully, so, now I have to pause it because there's things we got to break down. So this is one Spore Mine, right? I believe that's one. Oh, no, he might have gotten hit by two here. But regardless, boom, 2 armor pips, and yes, that's a pretty healthy amount of health to take away. Contested health, you can definitely get, your health back here. I hope they're using advanced conditioning. Yes, they are. But unfortunately, more Spore Mines come in here. Okay, hold on. Boom, Where did that third one come from? Yeah, right there, right there. That doesn't make any sense. Wait, this one doesn't make any sense. Spore mine's over here. Spore mine's over here. Eventually they pull out the pistol just to shoot them. Boom, boom. No way. No way, dude. There was 2 spore mines that just spawned directly in the vicinity of this objective. He goes to shoot, and he hits the spore mine that spawned directly in front of him. Nah. No. Dude, oh my god, I'm so upset at watching this, to be completely honest. This is unacceptable. Like, dude, I'm so sick of seeing these spore mine clips that are just super frustrating. Okay, guys, I don't want my tone to get, you guys a little worked up. Look, again, this is rare. I am frustrated. This player is probably frustrated. They did not deserve to be in this situation. Now they're getting swarmed because they have to move from that area right there. They had to move from because of those insta spawning spore mines, which in turn puts them in a situation where they go down. I mean, I understand they're trying to, like, they're probably panicking, and not to mention they were already in like a half roll when they're rolling into this, into the mob here. Now, I do think obviously they could have parried, right? But still, when they get hit by that spore mine that spawns directly in front of them, look at his health bar right here. Even without this major, if there was enough gaunts, he goes down. If there was, I mean, I guess he could just parry them, but still. Yeah, maybe he didn't handle this mobbing situation that good. See, this damage right here is from a gaunt. That damage right there is from a gaunt, which is kind of crazy. Spore mines, that's exactly what they should look like. If you got hit by a spore mine, it should take off maybe an armor, not 2 armor, and then also gaunt levels of damage, you know what I mean? But still, unfortunately, he does go down here. How does he exactly go down again? Gaunts, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you gotta see, this is what the player didn't do right here, is as soon as they're in this mob, they just have to stand their ground, don't shoot a single thing, and then parry the entire time until you have full armor and can find a way to heal yourself eventually, hopefully. But yeah, there's not only two spore mines that just spawned out of nowhere here. The second one spawned directly in front of him when he was trying to shoot the other ones. And yeah, guys, I know I'm getting a little bit ragey. I'm getting a little bit angry watching this stuff because I run into this stuff a lot because I do play on higher difficulties. I don't really see anything this egregious, but then it's like sometimes I look back at some of my clips and maybe this has happened to me once or twice. That's one or too many times too many. Like, to be completely honest, I know that some of this stuff is outside the devs' control, but something like that is insane. They need to fix that. Again, this goes down to my point that I make with zone throw death beams. If they are bugged, you need to nerf them. You cannot allow just like bugged attacks, bugged enemies, like any sort of bugged or like issue attack that isn't fully, that's not fully patched or anything. You have to either patch them or nerf them. You can't just leave the biggest hazard in the game capable of spawning out of nowhere. That's crazy. That's crazy. Guys, trust me, I want to stop talking about spore mines too, but something like this, I'm definitely glad I was able to, basically give this PSA. I guess never stop moving. As soon as you see one spore mine, just never stop moving or something. Look, this part, I understand the player was panicking a little bit here. So, yeah, this isn't that big of a deal. They probably could have survived this if they just spammed parry against the gaunts. But still, they should not be in this situation to begin with. All right, let's go into the comments. Let's see what people say about this. I already read some. A lot of people aren't taking this too seriously, which is unfortunate. So I'm also glad that I'm covering this because of that. Because I gotta be honest, I'm getting so sick of these homing spore mines that spawn out of nowhere. That's insane. That's insane. They have to be changed. Look, again, I just want to reiterate, I understand the devs have a lot of stuff on their plate. Patch 8 is going to be huge. We have Horde mode coming out soon, going to be one of the biggest modes for the game. You can't have situations like this turning new players away, man. You just can't. People who are going to be jumping into the new modes in Patch 8, some of these players are returning from launch. This is probably the biggest update in the game. You cannot have this in the game, man. You cannot have insta-spawning spore mines in the game. This is insanely irresponsible to leave stuff like this in the game. Spore mines have to be fixed. They have to be fixed. I had this happen once around patch 5. Full killed me as I had a group of 4 appear in my chest. My team happened to see it and thought it was hilarious. Yeah, I guess it could be pretty funny. It really depends on the difficulty, to be completely honest. Sometimes funny stuff can happen in this game for sure, but I'm like not, like when it comes to higher difficulties, I'm very less tolerant to laugh that off, to be honest. That's definitely pretty rage-inducing. But patch 5. Was patch 5 the Spore Mine Apocalypse? Because if so, this is kind of interesting detail. Perhaps the Spore Mine Apocalypse was basically 4 spore mines, like 4 spore mines spawning for every 1. That'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of people who are just like goofing off with this clip, and I feel like I'm the only one who's like, dude, this is like the second spore mine clip I've seen of spore mines just spawning out of nowhere. If this is starting to become like a trend, or for whatever reason, if we start to see this more often, this is very bad. Like that's very bad for the game. This needs to stop. Look, as long as I see clips like this, I'll cover it, because I just think I really have to drive it home like as far as how problematic spore mines have been. It just can't be said enough. Like ultimately, if I keep seeing clips this broken, that's actually broken. Like it's not really a bug. That's broken. that is a spore mine spawning directly into somebody. And then it did it again when he tried to shoot spore mines that were coming after him. Like, he didn't have a chance. Okay, probably had a chance, you know, with the pairing, the gaunts and everything, whatever. But he was panicking after that. So, I don't know. He also didn't have armor. So, like, yeah, it's an ugly situation, regardless. I hope the devs do something about it, for sure. Let me know in the comments if you guys ran into any spore mine spawns that are that bad, because that was terrible. Unfortunately, I don't really have a good wave of comments here. I mean, well, I will say, some people are like joking around saying, you know, you just have to get better, but then they're like, just kidding, I hate spore mines also, you know. But yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, somebody below here says, you had Taco Bell, didn't you? Look, sheesh, this is kind of funny, but it is kind of funny, but like, still, I'm super worried about these broken spore mine spawns. So again, let me know in the comments if you guys ran into anything this egregious recently. Holy cow, I hope I didn't, but I do think there was maybe one operation recently where I just got hit by a spore mine that seemingly came out of nowhere. But maybe there's a biovore, maybe not. But still, biovores don't spawn spore mines directly at you. That's not what they do. They shoot them at you. You can see them coming. So yeah, that's one thing where I do think most people kind of want to see spore mines from biovores more than spore mines that are random. Because random spore mines apparently are just going to kill your run randomly. No, seriously, again, just want to reiterate. See, it's seemingly rare. This is the second spore mine clip that I've seen of a spore mine basically spawning out of nowhere. And even if I'm like a little bit less lenient, I do think this has happened to me once. So, and that's once in this patch. So, I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Hopefully the devs patch this for the next patch. I just honestly, if they don't do anything about spore mines, as far as like their spawns or anything, I just hope they cut off the damage by like 50%. They're honestly a pretty terrible gameplay loop. I want the spore mines. The spore mines should throw a little bit of wrench into your plans. They should, but they shouldn't literally ruin the run. They shouldn't. They should be a hazard, not the main damage dealer from the enemies that ruin your run randomly. You know what I mean? It's just on paper right now, spore mines don't really make sense. They're not very balanced. Okay. 4th try at an outro here. Let me know in the comments if you have seen random spore mine spawns. And thanks for watching.